really the distinction between social enterprise as a business model from other types of business is that the factor is the return on investment. So capital is put into a for-profit business, and the intention is that you will be generating the maximum financial return on your investment, and the officers of the enterprise will be held accountable to that. In social enterprise, the objective is different, and what we're looking for is to generate the maximum social benefit or environmental benefit, and the profits will be assimilated back into the business to maximize that. And also the officers of a social enterprise will be held accountable to creating that difference in the world. Muhammad Yunus is one of the pioneers and one of the great global leaders in social enterprise, best known for his work with Grameen Bank, which is one of the leading microfinance institutions in the world. But Grameen Bank is just one part of what has come out of the culture they've developed in Bangladesh. Grameen is Bangladeshi for village. And they've evolved a whole series, dozens of other spin-off corporations. Grameen Telecom is one example. They're a communications company that provides communication services to remote areas in Bangladesh. Grameen Shakti is a energy company that delivers energy to remote areas with renewable energy, solar panels, et cetera. Grameen Health is a healthcare system that provides healthcare to some of the poorest people in the world. And all of these approaching these issues using the social enterprise model. So again, Muhammad makes this distinction that the concept of business can be reformulated simply by disconnecting investors from the expectation of financially gaining from their investment. So that's sounds like a bit of a surgical procedure, but but the idea that investment and financial gain can be separated from each other. And that's what Yunus is doing. A great example of that is Grameen Danone, which was Grameen's first international social enterprise. This is Frank Ribou. He's the chairman of Groupe Danone, better known in Canada as Danone. So they create all kinds of products. You might know their yogurt. And so Danone came to Grameen and said, we want to make a difference in the world. We love what you're doing. Let's do something together. And Yunus said, okay, then give up all attachment to making a profit. And let's feed people. And so they created Grameen Danone, and what we see here is an international corporation bringing all of their corporate resources, their capital, their expertise, their infrastructure, combining it with Yunus and his networks, the trust and the relationships he's established in the community, his understanding of how to communicate and to mobilize people. And Yunus brought together a whole army of women Bangladeshi micro-entrepreneurs, empowered women in Bangladesh, and they became his distribution network. And so Grameen Danone employs hundreds of women bringing fortified yogurt as a nutritional supplement to Bangladeshi villages and poverty-stricken areas in Bangladesh. And the way it's structured is that if they make a profit, whatever revenues are generated all get assimilated back into the enterprise to minimize the price of the product so that it's accessible as possible to everyone in the community. And so again, this is a beautiful example of the expertise and business acumen and financial capital, sophisticated capital that's approaching social enterprise from the perspective of venture capital, and combining that with the passion to make a difference in the world and trust in community and relationships.
So the real distinction in social enterprise is that there's a very clear mandate when the organization is founded and how it's run and how they measure themselves on what the difference that they're making in the world or in a given community that they've chosen. So the dollars are reinvested toward that purpose and specifically toward that purpose. And that allows them to have a sustainable business model where they're responsible for their own results and responsible for their own ability to keep delivering that service. And the product or service is tied in some way to the ability to then deliver that impact. And if people stop buying, that's going to go away. So it also allows them to get away from the dependence on outside sources of funding, which takes away a huge element of risk, right? It has some of the best and worst things of both the nonprofits and the capital worlds, but those come with unique advantages at the same time. And they have to do that by applying all the same business tools and expertise that anyone else does anywhere else in business. Because if they don't, they won't be able to fulfill their mandate. So really, you take a look at any organization is founded and is expected to generate a dividend. And the dividend here is that each of those bags of dollars are taken and they're put back into that social benefit. So I don't know about anybody out there, but I've been disconnected from my financial gain in some painful ways. And this is a particularly appealing way for me to disconnect that.
So the question becomes, why would you want to put capital into an enterprise that's not going to generate a return for you, at least financially, or to you individually? And according to Stats Canada, there's a whole bunch of reasons. The motivations range from compassion all the way to tax credits. And it's encouraging to see that motivations like compassion and contribution to community tend to be more prominent than tax credits and religious obligation and more individual benefits. And there's a market for this. In Canada, in 2007, $78 billion were funneled into nonprofits. This is not including institutions like hospitals and universities and colleges. And through different channels, our tax dollars are being invested to create a social impact. We're donating money to our corporations and privately. And nonprofits and social enterprises are offering services and products to the market that are being purchase and access, memberships and all kinds of products. So we as Canadians are channeling our funds to address these issues. And this doesn't include 2 billion hours of volunteer work that was contributed in 2007. That's 12 million people, 45% of the population in 1 year who volunteered at least once, whether it was at the folk festival or at a fundraiser. And that's 1 million full-time jobs. So Canadians want to contribute. We in our country we have a market of time and capital that we want to offer to address social objectives, address environmental objectives. And it's not just Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. They're getting a lot of press because they made the two largest private charitable donations in history. But this is happening globally. There's an increase in the number of foundations and philanthropic organizations spreading up all over the world as wealth is changing hands intergenerationally. And again, this is sophisticated capital, right? A big part of what works with this paradigm shift, the social enterprise, is that the capital that's placed into social enterprises, we're discussing it today, is repaid. So you put your money in, you create an impact, you get your capital back, and then you can use it again, and again create another impact. There's a high level of efficiency. And so sophisticated capital is asking the question, where can I place my investment where each dollar is going to make the biggest difference in the world?
So one of the things to consider is that there's a very large market out there. And there's lots of ways that we get things done in the world. There are government and social services, and they do a lot of things. And money is spent, and the services are delivered, and people benefit. There are nonprofits. I think there's 116,000 in Canada these days is the number, out there delivering services. There are businesses out doing lots of things and doing them well. Some of those businesses are engaged in significant levels of corporate social responsibility. And in the middle of that continuum somewhere is this idea of social enterprise. And it can be applied in any of those different areas to deliver those same types of services that is currently being done in a different way. So if someone like Gates and Buffett and Jeff Skoll, who was one of the founders of eBay, and after exiting formed the Skoll Foundation in Oxford and the Center for Social Entrepreneurship. So, and we happen to agree with Jeff. We think that there's an excellent chance that social entrepreneurship can be one of the driving forces in the world. And in the coming decades, it's a real way to make a change and to make a difference that's currently being underutilized. And when guys throw those kinds of dollars around, that's a gender non-specific term for me, by the way. I use that all the time with my team. So if they're putting those kinds of dollars into it, they're not doing it on a fancy or just to give back. They're doing it to eliminate malaria forever, to eradicate poverty in a particular region or a town forever, right? And they're applying all the same measures and outcomes that they would in any business. So the good news and bad news is that Canada is behind some other places in the world. Britain and probably the States are probably about 10 years ahead of us. And if you look at the scale and the complexity, the kind of the biggest and brightest and most exciting sometimes are over there if you're impressed by size. And in Canada, about 1/3 of the current social enterprises were founded in the last 2 years. So that means, A, it's underutilized, and B, it's starting to rise on that curve because there is a push and there's a definite trend there. At the same time, the ones that are 20 years and older represent about 20% of the social enterprises that are currently out there in the market. And that means that even before any support systems existed, before anybody coined these phrases, or before people knew that there was ways to go and get support and have peers, that they found ways to be very successful by combining these same elements.